welcome to MandoBug Crafts, episode 59. Hey everybody, what's up? I'm MandoBug, but you can call me Amanda if you want. You can basically find me everywhere on the web as MandoBug, like Ravelry and Instagram. Those are the places that you can find me most active, or being most active. I'd like to say welcome to any new viewers checking me out for the first time. Thank you for giving me a shot to spend time with you during the day, and thank you returning viewers for returning like you do. I enjoy chatting with you guys in the threads, even if I'm not quick to respond, at least as quick as I'd like to be. Real life sometimes just sweeps you off your feet. So anyway, let's start the shot with something I've learned. So I haven't really learned anything new this week. This is more like a tip that I don't think I've shared with you guys in the past. I've been doing some embroidery work, and typically I like to use hoops when I do that. Not everyone will use an embroidery hoop. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this is just a standard cheap wooden one. Some of the newer plastic ones will have like a lip around one of the circles that really sandwiches the fabric in really nice. Those work really well for needle punching, but this is just your cheap basic wooden one. And what I wanted to say is, if you've never used it before, you may have made the same mistake that I did when I started out using these, and that was leaving my project in them for basically the whole time I was working on them. So it's really recommended that if you use a hoop, that you take it out when you're done working on the project, because if you don't, you'll get these really bad circle creases in your project that are really hard to get out. Trust me, I learned the hard way. So speaking of hoops, this is the stitching that I've been doing, and you can see I have a little bit of a crease down there in the corner, but that's because I was just working on this morning, and that should be quick and easy to iron out. So this embroidered piece is going to be part of a tote bag that I'm making for a swap, and this design I'm stitching is called Deep Sea Love on Urban Threads. It's a really nice website that has machine embroidery and hand embroidery patterns for sale. The hand embroidery patterns are generally $1, so and you can see the whole design mirrored on the back there. So I'm almost halfway through. It's a lovely design with tentacles and roses, and I think it's really, really cute, and I think it'll make a lovely bag. So yeah, make sure you take your project out of its hoop when you're not working on it. And it's so tempting to leave it in the hoop, because you know, you're like, oh, I don't want to have to get it like resituated, and I'm probably just gonna pick it up in a little bit anyways. But sometimes you're not. Sometimes sometimes you think you're gonna get to working on it, and then a couple weeks go by and it's been sitting in that same creased circle. So it just saves a lot of frustration. So moving on to other works in progress, I went to Maryland Sheep and Wool this past weekend, which I'll talk about later in this episode, but we drove up there, and it's about an 8.5 to 9 hour drive, and we had Emily with us, so that meant we had to take some extra stops. So I spent a lot of time in the car, not driving, which means I got a lot of knitting done in the car. And if you watched my last episode, you're really going to see the progress on this. This is the Beekeeper's Tank by Nicole Montgomery, and here's my progress. So I'll have to get back here to show you. Let's see. I know there's a marker on here, but it ended up being in the armpit. Is it? There it is. Okay, so the marker is where I was last time I recorded. So I've knit all the way up here, and I've split for the front and the back, and you can see I have a little bit of armpit right there, and on the other side too. So far the pattern has just been basic stockinette in the round for forever. For forever. And now that I split for the front and the back, you can see the front's here, and it's just kind of hanging out. I put one row that's got some cables in it, which you won't see because I haven't knit past the initial cable. and then I've been knitting on the back. I'm all confused. Here's the back. I've been knitting on the back, and so I got a couple more inches to go before I can start some like back and neck shaping. Bind that off, do the front, and then I believe it's got like an applied trimming around the armholes and the neck hole, and then it's done. So this has been a very, very long-term project. I'm knitting this tank top out of Shibui Knits linen in the Cascade colorway on US size 2. I thought they were US 3. That's the recommended needle size, but it was too loose for me. I mean, the linen knits up kind of airy already, but the 3s was just way too loose for me. So I moved down to 2s. And so that's why it's taking forever. US size 2 tank top. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? I got a little bit of progress done on my Dark and Stormy sweater by Thea Coleman. I'm knitting this out of Blue Moon Fiber Arts worsted targy, or targy worsted, I don't remember the direction, in the deep unrelenting gray colorway on US size 7s. And I believe when I showed it to you guys last episode, I was just past splitting for the armhole, and so you can see I really only have knit like an inch or two more. I did do a little bit of decreasing for some shaping, not much though. It's going to be very subtle shaping, since I'm hoping this won't be a very form-fitting sweater, but it's got the lovely cable on the back. And I realized, like, my swatch didn't knit up this variegated, but I'm alternating skeins as I knit the sweater, and I think that's why this is turning out so variegated, because if I get up really close in like the stockinette portion, you can almost see the 2 skeins striping. Like, it's very subtle, but I think that's what's giving it that large amount of variegation. Because the skeins themselves aren't very variegated. But I guess when you blend them every 2 rows, they are. So, and then I cast on a new project. These socks are called the Mitered Window Pane Socks by Gladys Wee. Hopefully that's how you say it. I'm knitting them on the US size 0, which is my favorite sock needle, and I'm knitting them out of Lorna's Laces in the Unicorn Parade colorway. This is the shepherd sock base. And these have been really fun. So it's a free pattern, I think, on her blog. And she writes them top down, but I really like to do toe up socks, and so I've been modifying them to make them toe up. So I just did a toe that I thought would be nice, trying to do like a rounded toe. Now I'm realizing I haven't knit very many socks where I modify them at least, and I thought that maybe I would enjoy a rounded toe more than the square looking toe. I'm going to have to wait till I get higher up on these to know if I really am going to like the rounded toe fit better. I'm kind of thinking I'm not. I didn't realize it, but I kind of have long toes, and the square toe gives me that like skinny little pocket to stick my long toes in. Whereas with this rounded toe, it seems like it'd be more fitting for people with short toes that gets kind of right to the fattest part of their foot right away. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I just did a regular toe, and I've picked up and knit some mitered squares here. I'm not really sure how the pattern does it, but after I did this, I was like, you know what? Let's see what we can do here. So on the back side, as I was just working this mitered square at a time, one, go down, pick up another one, go down, pick up another one. Probably in this direction though. Can't tell because the camera's reversed. But so you end up with this fat strip across your toe and nothing in the back. So what I did instead was I picked up stitches down the side, knit across the back, picked up stitches here, and then I did short rows decreasing in the corners. So it seemed to not affect the size of the sock, and I think I'm going to continue doing that up until the heel. And I'm doing my parallel knitting because I won't make two pairs of socks I won't make wool socks if I don't. And what's odd about this one is somehow in the striping sequence, this mitered square didn't get a purple. The purple never showed up. I mean, if you see, so I don't know if that had to do something with the way that the skein was wound, because it had purple section on the whole skein. But it was a little tangled, not bad, just a little fiddly at first when I wound it up. So I'm thinking maybe there was a straggler that missed getting its purple. So, oh well. And then onto spinning. I spun just a little bit more of this Penguin Soup Superwash Merino in the Sakura colorway. It's this nice cherry blossom themed colorway. Here's what I have left. Not much. Just like 3 more color progressions, I believe. And then I'm going to chain ply it. I'm hoping for a 3-ply chain plied sport weight for some stripy yarn that hopefully will become something cute for Emily. And then I started spinning a new project. So this was one of those things where I was so excited I couldn't wait. This is from a new yarn shop that opened up. Well, it's not really a yarn shop, I guess, but it's a new shop that opened up like 20 minutes from my house, which is exciting because I don't have any local yarn stores. The closest one is like 45 minutes away, and this one is only 20 minutes away, but it doesn't sell like wholesale yarn. They have hand spun for sale, but they had fiber for sale. So this is what they call, okay, so the store is called Southern Made, sorry. The store is called Southern Made, and this roving that I got is called Boo in Charcoal, and it's a Merino Corriedale blend. So I don't know if I get up close. I'm trying to spin it at a 3-ply worsted weight, but I'm wondering if this fleece had a second coat in it, because as I spin it and look at it, there's some hair that, for lack of a better way of describing it, kind of looks like dog hair. So maybe if I show you the fiber itself, maybe you guys can see it. I ended up buying the rest of what she had because it's absolutely gorgeous. So there's the fiber. But if I get it up close, and I say roving because it's, uh-oh, I think my cat got in here and laid on it because now it's kind of sticking together. It doesn't look like comb top. It kind of looks like bat strips. But yeah, if I get really close, there you go. Do you kind of see what I'm talking about with those hairs that kind of look like dog hair? I feel like maybe this sheep had a second coat that wasn't removed before being processed. It's still really soft, but those hairs, the ones that kind of look like dog hair, they kind of stick up in the plies. So I don't really know how it's gonna feel or knit up when it's done, but I've been enjoying it so far. And speaking of Southern Made, I purchased some other stuff from them as well. When I went, they opened the weekend of Maryland Sheep and Wool, so I didn't get to go there for the grand opening, but I think the day after I got back I went in there, and I got to meet one of the owners, Susanna, and she was really sweet. She's the one that actually owns those sheep, and she got their fleeces processed at a local mill, and the sheep are local, so I was really excited about that. And we chatted about processing fleeces for a little while because she skirts and washes all her fleece before she sends it off to the mill. And so I ended up buying that Boo Charcoal, and then I also bought a bunch of this Fin. And so I'm excited to spin up the Fin and see what that's like as soon as I finish probably a skein of this Boo. The Fin, it's not a merino soft, but it's a nice soft. I really want to see how it spins up. And the shop seems to be owned by 3 women, and they kind of each have their own section in the shop. So Susanna had all of the processed wool in big bins in the back. Some of it was dyed, some of it wasn't. And I'm sorry if you guys can hear my dogs outside. It's like bird season, and they like to bark and harass the birds in the trees, and that's what they're doing. So I really hope it's not distracting. But anyway, so yeah, I bought the wool from Susanna, and there are I don't remember the other 2 ladies' names because I didn't get to meet them, but one of the ladies who owns Phoenix Farm, which is another local farm, she has I think it's Angora goats. Are those the ones with mohair? And she makes goat milk soap, so I got some goat milk soap as well as some mohair locks. And this was a mixed grab bag of like dark grays to medium grays to white. This one's called Levi, which I'm assuming is the name of the goat. And so it was really nice, her section that had these locks, because she had them binned up by different colors, but she also had like a tied off piece where you could feel the locks, because these bags are tied off, so you don't have to open them to feel them. There's a sample on the outside where you can touch and see if that's something you like. I think this is going to be something fun to play with in the drum carder blending, or my blending board, because my blending board has a smaller number TPI. So it would probably take the locks better. And then I also picked up some more soap from another section of the store, from Hard Earth Farm. And I believe this is the 3rd lady that's part owner. This one smells really good too. Kind of almost reminds me of like Irish Spring. Does it have a name? Tea Tree Eucalyptus. And this one was True Gentleman. But it was really nice. Yeah, like I said, they sold like hand spun. They had some homemade lavender sachets with some like oils and scented things for sale. They had some needles and crochet hooks that were made out of wood, and some fabric, like a small section of fabric, what looked like fat quarters, for sale as well. So I'm excited to see if they have some knit-alongs or knit nights or spin nights, because I can take my wheel, it's pretty small, to kind of meet some local crafters in the area. So yeah, moving on to finished objects. I finally finished my Lou Cookie Mystery socks. So this took a long time because I had issues with the heel. This was the first one I knit. I had to try the heel out 3 different times before I finally got it down, and I didn't take notes on how I did it, so when it came time to do the second sock, the heel's a little bit different. What it was is, when you're going back, these were toe-up socks with a heel flap, and I'd never done that before. So the first time I didn't realize, but I made the heel flap skinnier than the width of the whole heel. And so the heel flap's a little skinnier than on the second sock. My heel flap's the width of the entire heel. So it's a lot fatter. So that also resulted in less rows when you're doing the short rows, which gives this heel this very deep heel, and this one's a little more shallow. So both of these socks are too big for me. So I'm going to pass them on to my mother-in-law, where hopefully they fit her, and hopefully the little bit of difference in the heels is not uncomfortable, and she can get some wear out of these, because I know they will be her first pair of handmade socks. And these were knit on US size 0. I think I magic looped them, and the yarn is Dizzy Blonde's Superwash sock in the Tequila Sunrise colorway. So I really like how this yarn knit up, and I think I only used a little over half of this skein, so I can definitely get another pair of socks out of these for myself, maybe just with a shorter cuff. Moving on to Check It Out. So while I was in Maryland, my swap package came from the Entirely Crafty podcast spring swap, and I got super spoiled, you guys. It was a really nice package to come home to. It's down here, so I'm gonna grab it real quick. So my swap partner was so generous to send me this baby, or well, it's actually a children's cardigan with enough yarn to make it. She sent a whole bunch of yarn. So this, I'm pretty sure she sent this mini because it needs to be held double to make it. So I have 10 skeins of this. When the pattern calls for 5, but it says US size 13, and these balls say US size 6 to 7. So I'm pretty sure hold these double and I'll get enough to make the sweater. And the smallest size is a child's 2, which it's got the measurement, so I'm going to measure Emily to get an idea of what that size is, but it looks like it'll fit her in the future and it won't be something she grows out of quickly. She also sent some chowder mix, Puget Sound seafood chowder, which is awesome because I'm from Washington and it kind of makes me miss home to receive some pasta mix from Washington. But I only got a couple more months till I get to move back, so this can hold me over. I've never actually had this mix before, but it sounds good. And it even has the county on here, so it's super local to her, which is really awesome. She also gifted me this pattern, this Jilly Beret, with yarn to make it as well. This gorgeous blue yarn. Does it say what it is? It says Alchemy, Yards of Transformation, Alchemy yarns. So it's really, really pretty. As well as some hand spun, which I love me some hand spun. So it's like a yellow and a purple. It reminds me of the University of Washington Huskies. So, I mean, the purple's not as royal purple as theirs, but it still reminds me of home. There aren't any yards on here, but it looks to be about a worsted weight. So I'll have to, before I decide to work with it, I'll have to count up how much yarn's actually here. But it was an amazing swap, and I had a good time with it. So, and I love everything my swap partner sent me. So, yeah, that's what I got for check it out. For current events, I have started my shawl for the Boo Knits Mystery Knit Along for the shawl's called Be With You. And if you are participating and you don't want to see the progress, skip ahead a little bit so you don't get spoiled. But I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys. So I showed you last episode that I was planning on using that giant skein of hot pink lace weight. Here it is. So bright. I've already knit through the second clue and this is how much is still left. So I'm going to try to knit as much as I can on this shawl if it's repeatable to increase in size, which I believe it will be. Most Boo Knits shawls are. But for clue 2 already being out and I've only gotten this far, I'm kind of like, I hope it's repeatable. But here's my progress so far. It's a crescent shaped shawl. So you can see that it's already wrapping around the front and I'm not very far into it. The first clue, sorry, I hate when the needles drag on the table, but I can't help it sometimes. The first clue was just plain stockinette, and then the second clue had some lace with beads in it. And now the beads that I chose really blend in with the fabric, or with the yarn color, so it's kind of hard to see. They're very subtle. It's like a very subtle glitter effect that I'm getting, but this, I really like this shawl. I'm not a huge fan of pink, I'm really not, but I really like this. So I've been enjoying knitting this, and I have to say, I love Boo Knit shawls, and so do a lot of people, and I can't keep up with their threads. There's so many people in there that are knitting along. I can't keep up. Like, I think I posted when I finished this clue, like the day or 2 days after it came out, I posted my progress in there, And then by the next day, there were already 200 more posts since I had posted. And I'm like, I can't possibly read all of that. I don't know how people do it. So instead, I've been going to the little photos posts that, like, if you go to the top of a Ravelry thread, it'll be like photo posts. And I click just the posts with photos and look at people's progress that way, because I just, who's got time for that? You know? I don't. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying this knit along. And then also for current events, I am hosting the Double Dip Knit Along, where you just double dip, man. Whatever knit alongs that you've been participating in from March 1st through May 31st, you just post it on in the Double Dip Knit Along and share which knit alongs you've entered it in. I'm doing this because I like to host knit alongs that I'm participating in, and I am double dipping all over the place, especially since I've been participating in the Eat Sleep Knit alongs. Most of the projects on my needles are for an Eat Sleep knit along. Like this one is for their shawl knit along. The socks are for the mitered square knit along. The sweaters, the sweater free for all knit along. The beekeeper's tank is the sleeveless knit along. And the exploration station, oh, I forgot to show you guys that. The exploration station is the new to me knit along. So they have 12 knit alongs that you can do at any time during the year, and then some of them are featured during a specific quarter, and I'm planning to complete them all. The only bummer is you have to use their yarn, and I like to support more than one shop, but I'm challenging myself this year to compete in all of them. So since I forgot to show you my exploration station, here it is. I'll try to open it up. I'm still working on the brioche section. It's a little slower for the brioche because you knit each row twice. And I also gave more love to other projects this week, especially that beekeeper steak. But here, oh, I'm gonna go get the baby. Hold on, guys. Okay, I think I was talking about the exploration station shawl. So this is the exploration station by Stephen West, and I'm still working on the brioche section. And this is what it looks like. So it's a large shawl. You use almost half the skein of 4 different skeins of yarn. So I mean, that's a 2 skein shawl. Those are usually a good sized wraparound shawl. So I've been enjoying that. It just hasn't gotten as much love as some of my other projects either. This is what happens when you have multiple works in progress. You just kind of run back and forth between them all, but I like it. I enjoy having the variety of things to work on. So I think I was talking about the current events when I remembered the exploration station. Something I haven't showed you guys in a while are the prizes for the Double Dip Knit Along. I have 2 skeins of yarn. They're both the same base. They're from Wool to Die For, the Platinum Sock, and I don't remember the specifications, but I think they're a little over 400 yards each of a fingering weight sock yarn. I believe they're 75-25. Superwash, merino, nylon. So this is a skein that Lindsay dyed. Her goal was tomato soup, and I think she did a really good job. I really like this skein, and I've contemplated not giving it away, but I think that somebody else would enjoy it as well. And the other skein is one that I dyed, and it's just pinks and purples all mixed together. And these are both reskeined. So these are the 2 prizes that I have right now, and I believe that I'm going to be making a wedge bag. A wedge project bag is a 3rd prize. So moving on to upcoming events. So with the close of the Double Dip Knit Along, May 31st comes a new knit along. Now, I really like how some podcasters have a knit along that they do pretty much annually around the same time of the year, and when I first started this podcast, I didn't know how long I was going to be podcasting for. But since it's been just about 2 years now since I've started, I wonder when my podiversary is. I think it's in August. But it's almost 2 years now, and so I figure, yeah, why don't I go ahead and start a annual craft along. And so that's going to be hosted June, July, and August, and I'm calling it the Super Summer Spin Along. So, sorry knitters, this one's for spinners. There aren't a lot of spin-alongs out there, and spin-alongs are really fun to join in on. So, I don't have any prizes for that yet, but they will be fibery goodness prizes, and probably some bats mixed by me, and then probably some purchased fiber as well. So, a good mix of the two. For this spin-along, it's gonna be an entry for every 3 to 4 ounces. So I say 3 to 4 because sometimes bats are 3 and change, and 100 grams is a little less than 4 ounces, I believe. I should probably double check that before I just say that. But I think 100 grams is a little less than 4 ounces as well. So I didn't want the cutoff to be 4 ounces because that's not really fair. So I'm going to say every 3 to 4 ounces you get an entry. So, and the goal is to spin as much as you can. And I decided on a spin along because summer is really when I love to spin. And I also purchased a bunch of fiber, which you'll see later. So I know that I'm going to be doing a lot of spinning in this near future. Actually, you already saw a bunch of the fiber I already did spin, but there's more. So I figured a spin along would be great. And I really enjoy spinning in the summer. You don't have a big heavy wool sweater to knit in your lap. You are just lightly flowing through your yarn. And I love to take my wheel on my back patio and sit outside and spin, especially in the evenings. Here in Georgia, it's hot, so during the day it's too much, but in the evening, as it starts to get a little cooler, and as the sun starts to go down, it's really nice, or early in the morning before the sun really rises. So yeah, the Super Summer Spin Along. So yeah, that's coming up. On to Let's Chat. So this is where I was going to talk about Maryland sheep and wool. I have some iced tea that I've been drinking. Now that it's starting to warm up, I'm all about that iced tea. Not sweet tea. You know, I am in the South, but I'm not from the South. I do like a little bit of sugar in my tea, but not the way the South does. So, Maryland sheep and wool was so overwhelming. I could not even fathom how overwhelming it was going to be. So, I mean, the venue was not as large as I expected. I would say it's probably not too much bigger than SAF. I mean, but the amount of people that go to Maryland Sheep and Wool was crazy. On our drive there, I mean, they had it all detoured, and like they had a sign that said, expect traffic May 2nd and 3rd for festival, for like people that weren't going to the festival but needed that highway. So Josh and I, as well as Emily, drove up and we stayed in Silver Spring, Maryland. I have a friend who's from Maryland, and he suggested Silver Spring as a nice, safe place for us to stay, that we could get to the Capitol easily, the DC area, as well as get to the festival easily. So it was a nice in-between-the-two location. So it was an 8.5, 9-hour drive. Emily really only threw a fit once on the way up. She kind of averaged about 1 fit a day, which is pretty good. The hardest part of the whole trip was keeping her out of the sun. It was so nice over our 4 or 5 days there. I don't remember. 4 nights, 5 days, I think. It was so nice the whole time. And we had hats and clothes and stuff for her, but it was very difficult to keep her out of the sun. So we ended up using sunscreen as well, and just really did our best to stay indoors or in shade and keep her cool. That was probably the most difficult part. But we got to the Maryland Fairgrounds Saturday morning at about 8:30 before they opened, and the parking lot was already like halfway full. and they let you onto the grounds even though you can't get, like, buy anything yet. And so I grabbed a little booklet, and Josh and I went walking. We didn't bring our stroller. We had Emily in the carrier. And I wore my Hitofude, which was nice because it was kind of cool in the morning, but it got way too hot for that. So when I went to the back, there were kind of like two roads and the barns were between them. We went to the back road and we saw two lines. And I was like, what's that for? One of them was for like merchandise for the festival, and the other one was for the fleece barn. So we decided to get in line for the merchandise barn and wait for that to open up. And that's where I got this t-shirt, which is this year's logo. So Maryland Sheep and Wool 2015. And orange, of course. And I also purchased, where is it? I also purchased one of their totes. It's huge. So this is their 2015 tote. I'd have to say that I felt like it was pretty reasonably priced. I got the t-shirt and the tote for $45. And this tote is made out of like really thick canvas, and it's got like pockets and a little clippy thing, and there's pockets on the inside too. And it was really nice to shop with. So I'm going to move some stuff around here so I have somewhere to set it down. So that was our first stop. And then I just kind of wandered down the barns and the booths towards the main exhibit. I didn't have anywhere that I specifically wanted to hit right away. Like, I wasn't after any Jenny the Potter mugs or Miss Babs, which that was probably the most ridiculous part of the whole festival, was the line at Miss Babs. Oh my goodness. I had no idea that that was going to happen. And my husband, he still goes on about it. He's like, what does she put in her yarn that makes it worth standing in line for that long? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I saw her booth at SAF and it was not nearly that out of control. But at Maryland Sheep and Wool, it was crazy. So one of the first purchases I made from one of the booths was from Gail's Art. So I'm going to dig through this bag to get to it because I have all my purchases in this bag. And this was the only yarn that I purchased at the festival because I've been wanting to try a sock blank. So I love Gail's Arts, all of her work, and she had some very tempting yarn. Oh my goodness. She had like these blue colors like this, and the way that she speckled dyes. I'm sure you've seen her graffiti and asphalt colorway that's very popular. She had a whole bunch of yarns that were dyed like that in various colors. She had one that was in shades of blue with black like this, and she also had one that was like shades of yellow and orange, and I really wanted that one, but I didn't want to blow my budget too quickly. So I went with the sock blank. Here's her tag, Gail's Art. And this is one of the double knitted sock blanks, so you can do your socks two at a time. So I have purchased a I think it's a 47-inch circular, so I can try my first two at a time socks, which I think are going to be fun with this because they come from the same place. It's not, I don't think it's going to be as tangly as I expected, but who knows, I've never done it before. But I really like the stencils that she's added onto the sock blank with the love and more stencils. The love will not show up on the sock, neither will the stencils. They will show up as variegated color. The cool thing, because this is double knitted, the socks will match, or at least they should in theory, right? So I purchased that, and then let's see, I think the next purchase was from Loop. So really, I wanted for sure to make sure that I got a Loop bullseye bump because they are absolutely gorgeous, and I've never gotten one. They can be really expensive. The ones I got were expensive in my opinion, but it was festival treat yourself time, and I figured when I do have such a large budget, I might as well take advantage of that. So I got two. I couldn't resist. It was very hard to only choose two as well. So I'm going to try to open these up so you can see them. a little bit more. So this one is for me. It is a lot of these hot colors in between black. And I don't know if you can tell, probably not. It has subtle sparkle to it. So I'm really excited to spin this. And it's like, I believe this is what you would call pencil roving. It's really thin and pretty much pre-drafted for you. Oh, I don't want to lose that. There we go. But yeah, I'm really excited to try these out. And I think that's why they are so expensive, because of the preparation. And they're super soft. So this one is called Abracadabra, and it's 5.6 ounces of merino, bamboo, tussa silk, and Angelina. And so I knew that these are my colors. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it yet, but I love the bright colors mixed with the black. So, but there were so many pretty ones, right? So I figured, okay, well that one's for me. If I say another one's for somebody else, I can make an excuse for buying a second one, right? So I found the second one, I go, okay, that one's for Emily. So here's the second loop bump I picked out, and it's got this hot pinks to all various shades of these hot neon colors. And I figured, if I spun this up and chain plied it, wouldn't that make like a fun cardigan for Emily with some fun little buttons on it? Yes. So do you see how I talked myself into this purchase? So, oh, where's that card? That card's missing. No. Oh, here it is. Don't mind me while I dig. This is Pizzazz. Pizzazz, and it's 5.6 ounces, and it's just pure merino. So after I had hit the souvenir booth, Gail's art booth, and the loop bump booth, I was already 2/3 of the way through my budget, and it was only like 10 o'clock. It's so easy to do. So, and I mean, it was so hard to pass up all the booths who also had nice things too. I mean, like I said, overwhelming. And Josh was such a trooper coming with us. I couldn't have done it, just me and Emily. I think it would have been too much. She's very alert for her age, so she's just a little over 4 months old, but she like constantly needs to be entertained and stimulated. And I was in shopping mode. So Josh was carrying her at this point still. And I think he liked the people coming up to him, talking about how cute Emily was and how she looks just like him, and I think he ate all that up. So, but yeah, so at this point I had her diaper bag and this tote already full of stuff, and so we decided to just go back to the car because there was plenty of room for a stroller, which I didn't expect there to be, and she was getting ready for a nap. So we went ahead and trekked out to the car. Oh, and it was getting hot. And so while we were on our way out to the car, we went out the backside of the main exhibit barn and saw the giant line to Miss Babs. It was ridiculous. All these women just with yarn in their hands, just waiting to check out. But yeah, so we went back out to the car and I changed. I got out of my Hitafude because it was too hot for that. And I put this shirt on. I put my hair up. Got Emily all changed and fed and put into her stroller, and so we went back into the festival, stroller in hand, diaper bag in the stroller, and empty tote for more shopping. So I continued on, and I found this booth. Her card should be in here. Here it is. Solitude Wool. She was selling a bunch of different local breeds of sheep, and I have yet to spin some Romney up. So I picked a little bump of Romney in this nice, like, tannish gray natural color. I thought it would be gorgeous after I spin it to over dye it. So I picked that up, and then we continued on. Oh, and I think this is one. No, I hit Into the World next. So I've been seeing these lovely Into the World bats, and it's just so hard to get your hands on one. So I went ahead and picked picked one up at the festival. So this is Into the World in the Cat's Pajamas colorway, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. This is Falkland, and I really enjoyed the Falkland that I've spun in the past, so I think I will enjoy this too. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and it was so hard to pick in the Into the World booth because there's just gorgeous colorways, and the colorways seem to be dyed across multiple things. Like this is the Cat's Pajamas bat, but they also had a braid, a couple different base braids of the same colorway, which it was also tempting to grab because it's like I could spin the bat and then pair it with the braid and then have more and make something big. But again, I was trying to be budget conscious because I was nearing the end. And then also at Into the World, I almost missed these. They were at the bottom of her booth, below everything else, and the booth was already crowded as it was, but I got a bag of Into the World odds and ends. And when I went back to the hotel that night, I already opened them all and looked at them all together, and I took some similar colored odds and ends and I wrapped them together, and I plan to 3-ply them together, traditional 3-ply. So, for example, here's 3 different odds and ends that I thought would go well together, and I just kind of put them together and wrapped them up. So, I also picked that up. And I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but it's nice to have little mini skeins, maybe for some color work, something, or some scrappy socks, or who knows. So, yes. And then this was when I ended up meeting up with Lindsay of the Knitwim Diaries podcast. She showed up earlier than me, I think, but we ended up meeting up, and she wanted to pick out a fleece. So I went to the fleece barn with her and kind of helped her look through a bunch of different fleeces and helped her pick out this huge Romney fleece, which is going to be fun to tackle with her 9 pounds of Romney. Woo! So I hope she has a lot of fun with that, and of course she has all the access to the processing tools that I have if she doesn't want to purchase her own until I move. But and then we met up with her friend Jean and kind of walked around the rest of the festival. At this point I hadn't been to the lower or upper corral, so we hit both of those, and it was just getting so hot. It was so hot outside. It was ridiculous. And like I said, we just kept trying to keep Emily in the shade, and she really was a trooper. She didn't really throw a fit until we got to the Hobbledehoy booth. I have to say it was really hard not to buy anything from Knitting and Color, but I still had a braid of hers left, so I was able to restrain myself. But when I got to Hobbledehoy, I made it my final purchase. I picked up this Hobbledehoy bat. It's very similar in colors to my Into the World bat, isn't it? Kind of. But this is the Batgirl Classic Bats, and it has Polworth, Soy Silk, Black Tessa Silk, and Silver Holographic Sparkle. So, and this is split up into 3 little bumps. Little bat strips. So, it was funny because at this point I had already picked this bat out and I was ready to purchase it, but I could hear Emily starting her fit because Josh had her with the stroller outside the tent because the booths are kind of small, and I could hear her crying. So I gave this bat to Lindsay and gave her the money to buy it for me, and I had her purchase it for me while I grabbed Emily. And it was so funny because I took her to the shade by these like risers down where I believe that's where they do the sheepdog demonstrations, and they didn't have any demonstrations going on, but there were a bunch of people relaxing in the shade, and I have Emily just screaming her head off, and I'm walking over to these people relaxing in the shade, and I was like, I feel like they're looking at me like, why is she doing this? But I wanted to get her in the shade so I could feed her, and I'm pretty sure it was a combination of being hungry and tired and hot that really had her upset. So I went and sat in the risers and fed her over there, and she stopped crying. So I hope I didn't annoy the people there too much, but that was her one meltdown, and after that we were pretty much done at the festival. We kind of felt like she did, I think. We were ready to throw our fits because, like I said, there wasn't a lot of covered area except for the booths, and those were crowded. There was a little bit of shade here and there, but it was mostly filled with other people trying to keep cool as well. So yeah, that was our Saturday at the festival. We had lamb burgers and like sliced lamb sandwiches. Those were really good. And then we ended up finishing the rest of our trip touring DC. So the next day I met up with one of my friends, and we took the metro with her to the museums. We went to the Natural History Museum and the Air and Space Museum. That was a lot of fun, and I think Emily enjoyed that. I think my favorite part was the gems and stones section of the Natural History Museum. And I swear that this lady tried to steal Emily in that museum. She really freaked me out. She came over and said hi and like said that the baby was really cute and stuff, and then she left. And then while I was looking at one of the stones, I looked back and she's like over the top of Emily in the stroller, and I'm like, whoa, where did you come from? Get away from my baby. And she, like, my friend was saying, she's like, yeah, I kind of saw her like secretly taking pictures before, you know, she asked you to take pictures. And I was like, this lady. And I felt like we kept running into her, and I'm like, mama bearing over my baby. But other than that, it was pretty good, and Emily only had one meltdown, again, probably about the same time of day, over being too hot and being tired because we were walking outside. And she's teething, so, but really, like I said, one meltdown a day, I can handle that. That's really not bad. The next day, we took the metro back downtown, and we did all of the monuments, which they're a pretty good walk apart from each other. From where we got off the metro, it was probably like a quarter mile to the Washington Monument. No, to the White House. We went to the White House first. Like a quarter mile to the White House. And then we walked from the White House to the Washington Monument. And then we followed these trails that let you walk down that reflecting pool. And all of the monuments are kind of surrounded by the reflecting pool. So we kind of went off to the right, saw like the Vietnam Memorial and the World War II Memorial, and kept going and saw... got all the way down to the Lincoln Memorial, which was at the end, and then there's like a giant loop around this lake where you get to see the rest of the memorial. So it's a good thing Josh and I have been working out, because we probably walked about 4 or 5 miles that day, again in the heat. But the cool thing was a lot of the memorials were surrounded by trees, so a lot of the paths did end up being in the shade, which made it a lot easier, and I don't think Emily threw a fit that day. So I really think her fits were about the heat. It was not easy to keep her cool, but we kept her out of the sun. She didn't end up getting sunburnt. She wasn't dehydrated, so that went really well. And then, yeah, I think that was all of our days there. I mean, 8 or 9 hour drive takes the whole day to travel, so we came back the next day, and we've been recovering ever since. But yeah, other than that, I'd say Emily's doing really well. We just started feeding her a mix of breast milk and rice cereal, and she's been loving that. So I think I'm just going to continue with the rice cereal for the next couple of weeks, gradually thicken it until she's nearing 6 months, so then we can start with the mashed vegetables and then fruit and so on. But yeah, she almost crawled today. She was so close. She pushed up, and then she kind of moved her leg, and then she stopped. So I think she's still working on the strength to get there, but her mind's there. This girl she's a quick one. But yeah, I've talked your guys' ear off long enough. So I hope you guys have a good next 2 weeks. And until then, happy crafting. Bye!